Hello, welcome to another UTS Startups Confessions show. Can we get a little warm-up round of applause? Okay. So I've met a lot of founders, like thousands of founders, and I've met a lot of really good founders. I have not met any single founder that is as enthusiastic, hardworking, smart, kind of ridiculously hustling as you are, Ben.
Thank you, it was very humbling.
So it's only downhill from here.
Yeah.
But you've been going well so far.
Yeah.
You have something incredible to share. Like, I've seen this building over the last 4 years-ish.
Yeah, something like that.
And you've made things happen that I know nobody else could make happen. And they're really cool. You're going to enjoy hearing about them. So.
Sorry, Murray, we don't have sound.
Yeesh.
Oh, did we not turn it on? Maybe I didn't turn it.
Okay, that sucks. That was a good intro, too.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was very nice.
Settings. Test. No, it's definitely coming through.
Yeah, exactly. Molly, I'm sorry it wasn't working on my device.
Okay. Thank you for continuing to watch. I'm just going to say, for anyone watching, we have the jankiest recording setup you've seen in your life. But I'm not going to do that introduction again. I'm going to go straight into the questions. And Lourdes, if you can stop trolling me, it'll be worth hanging around for. So, in 10 seconds, what is Gecko?
Yeah, so if you're having an event or a party and want to hire, lights, speakers, chairs, tables, you can rent it out from a rental business nearby, and we provide the rental business a CRM, an instant booking system, and security.
Okay, so let's do that again for people that weren't paying attention at home. So I want to rent something, I go to Gecko, what happens?
Yeah, you can, rent out a speaker, a microphone, a chair, several chairs, tables, whatever you like, and yeah, we essentially make the magic happen. We put you in touch with a rental business, payments all made up front, and just making the whole process, so much easier, because I'm sure everyone here has, rented a car before, and you'll probably remember how, annoying, well, at least I'm very impatient. So, waiting 30 minutes to rent that car can be a little bit of a pain in the ass, but we're trying to improve the online and offline experience of renting.
Okay, so tell me more, like, why is the rental experience a problem that you understand?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. So it was funny, my mum actually had an event space, and as a kid I'd help her out in the kitchen because she's a cordon bleu chef, and I didn't have much choice, it was slave labor. And then as I got a little bit older, I started doing more sort of administrative stuff, ops stuff. One of my roles was whenever we had, a corporate client or a wedding planner, they'd request certain items like, a red carpet or a slushy machine or speakers or lights. It was my job to go and rent them out from different rental businesses. However, the whole process was just so annoying. Like sales cycles went for like 2 to 3 days. It was, very, very frustrating. Just trying to say like, hey, like we're going to give you money here. Like all you need to do is send the quote, and it would take a longer time than you think because the whole process is so janky. Security deposits were super expensive, which was obviously very frustrating as well. And then I think the most important thing was the organization of a lot of these rental businesses, because there's no rental CRM that really exists. So, yeah.
Okay, so first-hand experience in running kind of high-frequency events, seeing that kind of hiring could be better, and then seeing hiring companies that don't have good systems. You were an accountant.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're like, all right, I'm going to start a startup. How does that work?
So it was sort of around the same time that I started as an accountant, where I thought of the idea for Gecko. So like when the idea actually popped up in my head, it was when I went to Falls Festival, which for those of you who don't know what Falls Festival is, it's a music festival based in Byron Bay, and it was my job to again sort of rent tents, sleeping bags, gazebos, all that sort of thing. And again, like the whole process was just so frustrating, so annoying that I ended up buying a tent from Kmart. And then as I'm drifting asleep on the first night, I got hit in the head with a raindrop, and then a couple more, and it turns out that this ratty tent that I bought ended up having a hole in it, and I got very sick. Was probably one of the worst weeks of my life. Was not very happy. And yeah, that's sort of, I guess, when I was on my way home, it led to the idea for Gecko.
Okay, but like a lot of people have bad tents. Like what?
I think it was
allowed you to
because
start?
I tried to rent it out and like the whole process was annoying. So it was almost like I had this blame on the rental businesses, and the original idea was actually to go and like sort of like send them out of business. That was my original thought process, was like, oh, I can make something that's way better than already that they have. It would be super easy to do. And then, as we sort of got on, we started working a lot more with the rental businesses, we realized that their offline experiences were actually really, really good. And when I say that, it's like not so much when you get there, but they have a lot of passion and love for what they're doing. You go to AV hire places and, most of the time they, DJ on the weekends and they have a lot of fun. They understand, oh, you're hiring, 2 speakers for an event of, 300 people. Like you might have a bit of trouble with that, maybe, have a light as well and whatnot. So it's working with these kinds of people that we realize actually these are the ones that we want to work with. So that's sort of like how we vet a little bit more is, do they have the passion? Do they, create an unforgettable experience? And that's sort of, I guess led us to pivoting more from this P2P marketplace to this sort of like B2B2C marketplace.
Okay. When you were starting, did you think this would be big?
It was funny. So like so I didn't realize like how big was big. So I remember, like, I think it was when I thought of the idea. And I remember going into the shower, like I vividly remember this, and I was going into the shower and I was like, oh my gosh, this business could be worth like $1 million one day. I could like buy a house. This is crazy. So yeah, I didn't think as big as I probably should have, but yeah, it's from there I sort of realized, oh, actually, this could be a lot bigger than that, and it could impact a lot of lives. And as I started working on Gecko more and more, that was like my, I guess, motives shifted a lot more into, how can I impact more people? How can I, make their lives better, as opposed to, the financial incentive that comes with starting a tech startup.
Yeah, it's a wonderful motivator though. As soon as that first sale comes through and you start to figure out, okay, there's a lot more people like that, it changes how you approach it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And also like the impact you can have as well. People talk about impact a lot and there's a lot of rubbish around, but you are actually avoiding wastage of space, of things, of kind of people buying stuff from Kmart and chucking it out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think like one part about us, and like just in startups in general, like we're super customer centric, and I know that's like a bit of a buzzword, but like the key thing for us, and like we write this on all our, whether it's an investor update or what have you, is, we measure our product market fit, and how we define product market fit is, do our rental businesses, would they be very disappointed if we died tomorrow? Would they be somewhat disappointed, or would they just not care? And we need them at very disappointed. If it's not very disappointed, it doesn't count. So I had one 2 days ago, and they were like, "Oh, we'd be disappointed," and I was like, "But it's not very disappointed." So that's the thing, and it's just about like, okay, well, what do we need to do to get you to that? And that's how we sort of like work together, and it's almost like a partnership where we're working on how we can both, because of course incentives are aligned, how we can both make the product better for them and of course for others.
Okay. Tell me more about that, particularly the marketplace side of this. How have you found spinning up a marketplace?
Yeah, marketplaces are tough, and it's really annoying because you go into like every meeting with any mentor or any investor and they're like, oh, marketplaces are tough. And it's like, oh, I didn't know, thanks. Yeah, so like that's definitely one thing. I think P2P marketplaces especially are tough. And then, then there's Uber, which is even tougher. That's definitely the most difficult business model to ever exist, and probably the most difficult business model to ever exist, I think ever. So I think, yeah, marketplaces definitely are very difficult. We started with the P2P way, and it's because you need the supply and demand. So there's 2 different customers and less focus. So I think like the key thing with startups is you need to have focus. Focus is one of the most important things that I guess, because you don't have a lot of money, but you do have time, and it's just how you spend your time is very important. It doesn't matter how well you polish the underside of a banister, right? Like it matters about like how well that you're building the things that people want. So that's why it becomes a lot more tricky, is when you sort of go away from that focus, it becomes harder. So why, I mean, obviously, yes, I do talk about the offline experiences that I guess these rental businesses provide, and that was like a very key difference for us, was because in P2P, if you don't have people that are doing this for a living, it makes it a lot more difficult because they don't provide that amazing customer service that you would quite like. Like, to give an example, we had someone who hired a speaker from a person. It was just like, oh, hey, here you go, enjoy your night. And they're like, okay, cool, but how do I set it up? And then they're anxious. They're like, oh, they're calling him, they're calling us, and all that sort of thing. We can't set up the speaker, and it's a bit of a nightmare. Whereas these rental businesses, they really go through it with you. They'll provide, I mean, they haven't done this, but one thing that we want to do is, have a YouTube video or a QR code where you're able to scan it and it'll help you, set it up if you want to, dry hire, and we can go and deliver and set it up if you want to do that. So yeah, I guess that's I guess why is that like they're managing that, but also it's a lot easier to get like one business as opposed to getting like 50 or 100, of these suppliers from the peer side. So that's sort of why we pivoted more to, building tools for a lot of these rental businesses that make their lives easier and also make them more profitable, as opposed to, I guess, like the P2P angle that we were trying to go with. And it still solves the same problem that I faced. It's just a different way of solving the problem.
Okay, but you're able to bring on a smaller number of companies and have a lot more supply.
Yes.
That then makes it make more sense for individuals.
Yeah.
Okay. Good advice for anyone watching thinking about a marketplace. It feels like every second or maybe 1 in 3 people coming through with a startup have some kind of marketplace element in what they do.
Well, I mean, like from a customer angle, like people use marketplaces, right? Like we know of, Kogan, Airbnb, Amazon, Uber. Like these are very, some of the most dominant, companies, in the world. Even Airtasker, right? And yeah, I could keep naming marketplaces for days.
Well, how long could you name them for? Because how many small marketplaces does anyone use?
Yeah, it's a good question, but I mean, you need to use a smaller marketplace to get big, I suppose. And I think it does come down to what is the customer experience? Is it an exceptional experience? Are you like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I used this, as opposed to that was all right, probably not going to do that again. So I think that's something that's really important. It's hard because they're capital intensive businesses, right? You need a lot of money because you need to make sure that both sides are happy, and you need a bit more because obviously focus is going in 2 different areas. So that's why, like with us, like at the moment, like our major focus, and I write LinkedIn posts about this all the time, is just on the rental businesses and building tools for them and their customers, and what are the most pressing things that we need to build for them and their customers. And then from there, that's when we can start developing the marketplace a little bit more as we go on. But that's really where we're sending like our focus at the moment.
Okay. So speaking of focus, like if you had to describe how you spent your time when you're starting out, what were you doing, and what would you recommend other people do? Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So I would say, if you're trying to get, that's what I did a lot at the start. Was I got a lot of advice, some of it better than others, if I have to be honest with you.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Well, I mean, you introed me to Pete Davidson, who is an absolute weapon, and we love Pete so much. There's some amazing people that give you things that just give you enlightenment, and then others that not so much. But one thing I will say is the YC library, How to Start a Startup by Sam Altman. I literally send everyone there. In fact, there are probably people here today that I've definitely sent that to, because it is the best way. They are the pros. They've launched the millions and millions of, or maybe not millions, but definitely thousands of businesses before. They've got a bit of a playbook going, and it's definitely worth sort of learning from them. So that's from a theoretical theoretical standpoint. But I guess like for like an emotional sort of standpoint, I think it would just be like, don't try and want things to be not the way they are, because it is what it is.
Yeah.
And you sort of need to accept that, otherwise you're going to be pretty depressed, because startups can be brutal, but there's a lot that you get from them as well, as we all know.
Do you think if you kind of ingest all the YC library stuff and see how things happen over there, that can be a source of depression? For someone sitting in Sydney looking around going, okay, there's not companies like
just
that
don't
so
watch
much.
like the funding ones, I suppose, because that'll probably be the main thing. But in terms of like building, everyone can build in one way or another. So just don't. I mean, even the funding ones are all right. Like when you hear about like Mark Andreessen about investing and how it's like layers of risk, and that's a big reason why marketplaces don't get investment, or at least some do. But marketplaces are more risky, so you need to do more. And in fact, we've had VCs in the past that have said, honestly, if you're a SaaS platform, we probably would. But being a marketplace, we have an extra bar that we need you to get to, just because, they are a little bit more difficult. So.
Okay, that is interesting. That like effectively you're a kind of SaaS product, but with more liquidity.
Yeah. So we're like a SaaS-enabled marketplace, which is a very new term, but definitely you're going to start seeing a lot more of those for sure. Like vertically integrated SaaS-enabled marketplaces is definitely the future.
Okay, cool. We'll start to wrap up, but 4-ish years in, what does Gecko look like today?
Yeah. So we're Breakeven, which is super exciting,
Worked for that.
Thank you. And we will be profitable very, very soon as well. We're just getting more and more rental businesses, solving more and more problems, and it's as easy as that.
Okay, overnight success. For anyone watching, what would be helpful in kind of growing this to the next step, and what is that kind of future Gecko?
In what?
So what is the future Gecko, and for anyone watching this at home, what can they do to help?
Yeah, cool. I guess like the future for Gecko, and I guess where we're really focusing hard on the Sydney market right now. We want to reach product market fit, as I said, have people that are very disappointed if we were to die tomorrow. Keep speaking to our customers. As I said, we want to be the most customer-centric platform as possible. So look, if you know any rental businesses that want to have a chat, we'd absolutely love to have a yarn, and just see what are the problems that they're facing. Have we got something that can actually help them? So that would probably be, I'd say, like the best bit of help. So.
Okay. Do you find it hard, like finding rental companies that don't want to make more money? Seriously?
Funnily enough, it's funny. It just depends. Like it's one of those things that's like it almost sounds too good to be true. But like with us, like and the different features that we have in, it does totally make sense. And we do luckily have the data to back it up. Like last month, Vibes, which is actually who we've rented the lights from here today. And you'd see in the background here, they're one of our partners. We made them 41 point. We increased their average order value like 41 point something % from the month before, and that was mainly to do with a lot of the upselling, cross-selling things that we're doing at the moment, which is exciting.
Okay. So this should be the easiest sell in the world for anyone watching this. Someone will know rental companies. And obviously, when you're planning your events and things, you don't have to buy stuff or deal with kind of potentially things that don't get fulfilled. You can deal with a marketplace that has insurance and other things that make it a good experience. 2 last questions. How has doing Gecko changed you as a person?
Yeah, that's a good question. In terms of me as a person, I just think like it's like, did Gecko change me, or did I just sort of mature as well? So I don't know. I did a lot of soul searching like while I was still in the validation stage for Gecko. So I think I was already changing my personality a little bit. But it is definitely like, it's one of those things where, I heard this thing about like Zuckerberg saying like, when he got an offer from Yahoo or something for $1 billion, and they were like, oh, just for formalities, we're having a chat, and this was with Peter Thiel and the other investor in Facebook, but obviously we're not going to sell. And the investors were like, what? Like, what do you mean? It's $1 billion. I think we should chat about this. And he was like, well, what would I do if I sold? Like, I'd start another social, another social network. Like, and that's the same thing with me. It's just like, if there is no alternative, like, it's just like, I love what I do. And it's like, if I were to say sell tomorrow, I'd just build another one. You know what I mean? So that's sort of like, I get a lot of enjoyment out of this. It's definitely sort of like what I feel I was put on this earth to do. So yeah, I enjoy it.
Do you think that kind of commitment and kind of you becoming Gecko is what allows you to put so much into Gecko?
Yeah, so I think it is important to some degree compartmentalize like who you are and like what the company is, but it's so hard. So yeah, I think so. I'd say so. Yeah.
I think it's hard to do anything well if you don't like care about it that much. So I think.
For sure. Like, and it's just like trying to work out. Okay, like. What is the thing that I'm sort of like, I guess working out and being able to compartmentalize, like, okay, like this is Gecko and this is Ben, and then trying to work out the two. But I think having co-founders helps a lot, because you can sort of like fall back on them to an extent, like where it's not, you're not like burdening them, but it's just like, hey, this sucks. And they're just like, yeah, like let's have a chat about it, and you can sort of relate in a way that no other person can, because it's like, if you go to like, your dad or your mom or, your friends, it's sort of like, haha, man, that sucks. But like when you're speaking to it with someone who's sort of like somewhat in the same boat, like has, the empathy without dumping on them or like venting, it certainly, makes life a little bit easier. And I got a great relationship with both my co-founders. So it certainly helps when things get low. But luckily, recently things have been doing well, so it's good.
Easy when things are going well.
Yeah, that's it.
But that's the thing. Like, I think humans naturally become obsessed with something, and if it's TikTok or cross stitch or something else, like you'll find some way to occupy your time. Maybe it's not such a bad thing to get this deep into building something that could be incredible and already is incredible. It could be a lot more incredible.
Yeah.
That seems like an okay way to invest your effort. Okay.
For sure.
Last question, if you can look down the camera and just say some advice to Ben from 4 years ago, and maybe it'll resonate with some entrepreneurs out there.
Yeah, look, I think like what I sort of said before, just in regards to, just not wanting life to be what it isn't. And it's just like, it's okay that, life is the way that it is. And just accepting that. I think my dad did he quoted a quote, sort of like the Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott thing, but it was something to do with like it's not about waiting for the storm to pass, but learning how to dance in the rain. And I definitely think that's something that I would tell me 4 years ago.
Okay, a quote of a quote of a quote. Feels like it was rented on Gecko. I think it's getting a lot of reuse, but hopefully that resonates with some people at home. This has been incredible. We're going to turn off the camera and run to private audience Q&A. I'm going to say to anyone watching, every Friday at 3:30 we run these, so just come down and join us. There's good people here, really good people, and the questions are really interesting. We're going to get into some juicy stuff that I want to cover in a second.
Yeah, unfiltered Ben.
Unfiltered. Was there a filter? Apologies for the audio trouble before for anyone watching, but thank you for sticking with us, and please join me in thanking Ben.